We can talk about it. I mean, I don't care so much about that one way or the other, but then nobody else has to think about being watched while being meditated by futuristic people. So, 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 so. So this week we're going through intentional ethics, intentional morality, caring ethics might even be a better way to say it. I've already cut into our practice time a little bit by my blabbering about retreat, but I will just say about ethics, everybody has a different set of kind of rules and moral conduct. And that's part of this thing is that we should each come to our own understanding. Um, and in the tradition that I do most of my own practice in, there's not such a stress or focus on ethics. The understanding is more or less that ethics manifest as you get more in touch with the caring and most deeply listening part of yourself. And I think that's true. And I also think that it's useful for us to really take a look at ourselves intentionally in terms of very simple principles of what we might think of as ways we want to live. So, all of that as a preface to say, today we're practicing on intentional action. There's many ways to break down intentional action. In this case, we'll break them down by a traditional set of precepts. And so I'll just read a few of those off to start our practice. I intend to be reverential and caring with all of life. I will not kill or be ruled by violence. I will respect what belongs to others. I will not steal. I will be conscious and loving in my relationships. I will honor honesty and truth. I will not deceive. I will exercise proper care of my body and mind. We'll just practice with those today. Let's come to physical stillness, physical rest. Let's begin by listening to what's going on around us without judgment. As thoughts come in, verbal thoughts, just tuning back to our ears, allowing our thoughts to exist, but listening more closely to what's making contact with our ear. Notice, even in this just preliminary listening space, our thoughts, fears, misconceptions just bubbling up, wanting to be listened to. If you like, you can give a brief moment to actually listen to what feels like it needs to be heard from your discursive mind, your verbal thoughts. What wants to be heard? Having heard whatever it is, just briefly set it aside to return to it a later time, genuinely. You can allow the body to become settled in the field of gravity, softening our body to allow for gravity to work. Just noticing one breath at a time, without counting. Just noticing, just listening. I'm going to read these again. Today we'll just pick a single one, each of us individually, to reflect on. So if one sticks out to you for any reason, just noticing that, noticing the impact that my reading these out has on your body, especially between your head and your belly. Noticing the heart as well. I will be reverential and caring with all of life. I will not be ruled by violence or kill. I will respect others' property. I will not steal. I will be conscious and loving in my relationships. I will not be ruled by lust. I will honor honesty and truth. I will not deceive. I will exercise proper care of my body and mind. I will not be gluttonous or abuse intoxicants. So, setting aside for a moment what we might think of as judgment of doing or not doing these things. That's no small task. We're very used to making a right or wrong judgment about how we live up to rules like these. Forgetting about this right or wrong judgment for just a moment. Which one of these sticks out to you? I will be reverential and caring with all of life. I will respect others' belongings. I will be conscious and loving in my relationships. I will honor honesty and truth. I will exercise proper care of my body and mind. I imagine if one of these sticks out to us, it may be because we feel like we haven't done as good of a job as we could in the past. That's okay. To be expected, in fact. Let's just take a moment and sit with this, including any feeling of self-judgment that arises, which is certainly not our goal here, but we expect that self-judgment might arise in reflecting about whether we do or don't follow certain expectations or desirable rules. Noticing the ways that we might push away ourselves or push away a sense of any rule. Remembering that the rule is just a form of practice for tonight, not anything you need to follow. What comes up? Noticing the internal reaction. You might imagine a particular circumstance that you didn't quite live up to this the way that you wanted to. What were you hoping to get out of this interaction? You might notice and reflect a moment if there was a particular need that you were trying to fill or that you fill in doing your habit of maybe straying away from the way that you prefer to be. Is there a need or a want that's drawing you away from being the way that you want to be? What do you most care about in terms of this need or want that is calling you away from whatever right or intentional action we might think of? What is the need or want? What does it feel like? What do you most care about in relation to this need or want? Just feel in your body for a moment this desire for things to be a certain way, noticing in what ways that your thing that you most deeply care about might actually be fairly pure, wholesome, caring. or at least a very reasonable need. And being curious about if there's a line of fears or logic that moves you from wanting that thing to acting in a way that you might not otherwise prefer to act. We take a moment and reflect on in what ways we can support ourselves in this need. Maybe we're feeling like we need something that we don't have, or feeling that we need to stop something from happening because it would be bad for some reason. Maybe we really want connection or some form of care or release, freedom. In what ways is that accessible to us? What wholesome ways? And lastly, what does it feel like at the precipice of being called by this need to act in a way that we don't want to be acting? Can you imagine yourself at the precipice of acting in such a way? What does that feel like in that moment, right before it happens? Where do you feel it in the body? Can you soften? Imagine it going a different way. Imagine that need still being met, but a different way. This is just the beginning of a reflection on right action, but an important one, and one that we can check in from time to time if we know that there's a type of action that we think we could change to make more wholesome. In the meantime, let's just come back to our breath, noticing it wherever you like. Noticing the sounds around you again. When you feel prepared to begin returning from practice, you can feel free to do that as well. Slowly on your own time. and we'll come back for some discussion.